Hello, my friends, it's Dani, and today we are doing a community Q&A. I love taking the time every now and then to connect with the C&D fam, see what type of questions you have on your mind, and see what answers I can get to you. So what I did is I went to the community page, I went to my Instagram page, I collected some questions from all of your brilliant minds, and we are just going to address a handful of them here today. So the very first question that I've got multiple requests for is immunity, right? A lot of people right now are wanting to know what they can do to boost their immunity, okay? So it's funny because this actually makes me think of weight loss, bear with me here, in the sense that a lot of times, right, we get like this desperation and we want to lose weight or we want some type of change and we think we need to go to extreme measures and we're completely overlooking the basics, right? Drinking water, eating vegetables, getting exercise, not eating when we're not hungry, all of these very basic things. And instead of paying attention to those things, we go all the way to extreme measures. Well, I feel like that's what's happening with immunity right now, right? So I want you to step back and just to remind yourself of the basic things you can be doing on a day-to-day basis that keeps an immune system very strong. So first and foremost, most obvious, everybody and their mother is telling us, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. That's the obvious. The next thing is, getting some fresh air, getting outside, connecting to nature, eating real whole foods, getting your fruits and vegetables in. If you want to add some strong food immunity boosters, you can work some garlic and onion into your diet. Have a little ginger, some turmeric, have a little lemon in your water and your tea. Those little shifts can make a big difference. Having a little bit of probiotic, whether that's some raw sauerkraut or taking some type of supplement or a fermented pickle, anything in that vein, kombucha. But honestly, I think as important, if not more important than any of these things, is reminding yourself to stay easy. Stress is one of the #1 ways to compromise your immune system, right? So it's so important that you don't get super anxious or stressed or heavy with everything that's going on right now. So maybe that means not staying glued to the TV or to your Facebook feed, reading every little bit of negative news that might be coming at us, right? We know what's happening. We don't need to watch it 24 hours a day. Go about your day finding ways to stay light and easy, whether that's getting outside into nature or watching a funny show with your family, reading a book you enjoy. If you're really having a hard time, kind of controlling your brain and your anxiety, take a little downtime. See if you can meditate, try journaling. You just want to redirect your brain and remind yourself that everything is perfectly fine. In this moment, you're perfectly okay. And then create the vision for what you want, which is beautiful, strong immunity, perfect health, and all is good in the hood, right? So really what I'm saying here is just take a step back, make sure you're covering all of the basics, and then just trust that that truly is more than half the battle. Okay, so the next question is from Salma, and she says, Dani, what is your opinion on being in a deficit for weight loss while practicing intuitive eating? Okay, that's a brilliant question, very interesting. Here are my thoughts on that. In my opinion, and from my knowing and practices, right, intuitive eating is truly a practice of learning how to have a healthier relationship with food and your body. So when you approach intuitive eating, while trying to focus on being in a calorie deficit, it kind of takes the practice of intuitive eating off of the table, right? Because you have like this alternative agenda going on. What I have found personally is that intuitive eating and creating a healthy relationship with your food and your body is actually the precursor to then doing any type of manipulation with food or body. Right? So if you're like intentionally trying to be in a calorie deficit or intentionally trying to eat less food, it's important that you have a healthy relationship with food and body before you start to try to consciously manipulate things. Now, for a lot of people, simply focusing on intuitive eating and really tuning in to their body's hunger cues in and of itself creates the byproduct of weight loss, right? Because for a lot of people, they're eating by the clock or they're eating by a system or they're eating by a diet. And so they're always either ignoring, not recognizing, or overriding their natural hunger signals. So when you start to practice intuitive eating and you start to honor those signals, oftentimes weight loss is a byproduct of that experience. Certainly not for everybody. So bottom line here, to put a little pin in it, I would say practice intuitive eating first. Get comfortable trusting your body, listening to your body, hearing the signals of your body. And then if you still feel you want to play with things, then allow yourself to play using that as your springboard. I see a number of people ask the same question here, which is, am I planning on making a cookbook? As of right now, I am not planning on making a cookbook. It's funny because all the years I've been doing this, for some reason, the idea of making a cookbook has never been super appealing to me, currently speaking. That doesn't mean I will never make a cookbook, and sometimes I sort of think I might want to make a cookbook, but right now with the amount that we already do, I honestly can't imagine creating a cookbook on top of it. It just doesn't sound appealing to me with, you know, in the world of running this business and being a mom and managing my personal and family life as well. But I'd like to say that hopefully eventually I will have the desire to do that, and I'll be very excited to share with you when that happens. But presently speaking, no cookbook is in the making. So the next question we have is from Jester Crew 5. How do I stop thinking of food as an outlet for emotions? This is a second to second battle for me. Okay, this is a great question. And I absolutely know that you're not alone with this experience in your life. I think a lot of people turn to food for emotional reasons. We are emotional beings. So of course, to a degree, we're going to be emotional eaters, right? But when we are turning to food, instead of experiencing our emotions in the long run, that is a detriment to ourselves and to our health. And it really robs us of living a full, wholehearted life, right? In the sense that we're not experiencing all of it because we're numbing ourselves out by turning to food. And for some people, it's turning to alcohol. For some people, it's turning to overworking, over shopping, you name it, right? But what are the things that we're doing, in this case, food, to distract ourselves from our own emotions? So the only answer I know for this is to make the decision that instead of buffering, pushing your feelings away by eating more food, you're going to make a decision to stay with your feelings. And what exactly does that mean? It means having the willingness to actually experience the emotion. Honestly, this is something I work on a lot in my own life. And my mentor, one of my mentors, her name is Brooke Castillo from the Life Coach School. She teaches a lot about this. And she talks a lot about how there's different types of things that we can do with a feeling or with an emotion, right? We can react to it. We can resist it or push it away. We can buffer it by turning to food and eating something to soften it and kind of avoid it for a little while. Or we can experience it. And I've really come to learn in my life that a lot of people, including myself, don't really know or were never really taught how to experience an emotion. Oftentimes we think that reacting to it or resisting it is experiencing the emotion. But when you're experiencing an emotion, you're really taking a moment to pause and find what's happening inside of your body. So you're not judging it, you're not labeling it, you're not trying to get away from it. You're really taking a deep breath into it and seeing what exactly is it in the first place, right? Because remember, all emotions are simply vibrations in our body. So you are going to feel a physical sensation in your body whenever you're feeling an uncomfortable emotion. So to circle this back around, the work to do here is to recognize what is the feeling and or feelings that you are trying to avoid, and why are you trying to avoid them? Why are you so unwilling to be with whatever it is that is coming up for you? You know, it really is, in my opinion, some of the deepest work that we can do, because it's getting to know yourself and be with yourself on the most intimate level, right? And allowing yourself to really see all the bits and pieces, even when it doesn't feel good or like something that you want to do. Another thing I find really helpful here is to use a journal, right? To take pause and to write things out for yourself. And one last thought, because this is something that I practice in my own life, is sometimes I will see that there's a feeling and there's a desire to eat, and I can recognize the feeling. Let's say it's boredom, and I still have a desire to eat. And so then the practice is just telling yourself the truth and saying, okay, I'm going to eat right now, not because I'm hungry, but because I'm bored, and still go ahead and eat. But what this does is it clarifies, it takes away any confusion. It doesn't leave you spinning like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. You can go, oh, I know why I'm doing it. When I'm bored, I eat food. Okay, that's good to know. And then it's a slow process. You get to this place where then you say to yourself, okay, do I want to start to practice what it feels like to just be bored or do I want to start to explore what I can do to maybe not feel so bored in my life or whatever the emotion is for yourself. So there's a lot of layers to that question, but I hope I gave you some good little tidbits to at least think over or to play with for yourself. Okay, so the next question is from Sonam. Hey Dani, I am always unclear about how much brown sugar, maple syrup, honey, which we think are healthier options, should be consumed on a daily basis. Okay, this is a great question, and I think there are probably a lot of other people who would like this clarity as well. Okay, so when you think of things like maple syrup, honey, coconut sugar, really these are simply higher quality sugar options, right? So they have more micronutrients, they have more minerals, they bring a little bit more to the table. It's like taking a white refined sugar and saying, I'm gonna level it up and have a higher quality sugar, right? But when all is said and done, they are still all sugar. Calorie for calorie, gram for gram, they're exactly the same, and your body reacts to them in exactly the same way. So really what you wanna be doing is you don't want to think, oh, because it's a healthier type of sugar, I can have more of it and or as much as I want. It's kind of like when people think of getting frozen yogurt instead of whole ice cream, right? They think because it's frozen yogurt, they can have 2 or 3 times the amount. That's not really the idea. Not that I'm telling anybody to eat frozen yogurt. I'm just using that as an example, right? What you want to be thinking is, okay, sugar is something that we want to be including minimally throughout our diet as a source of pleasure, because it's delicious and there's a lot of yummy things made with sugar. But I like to think of it kind of like a condiment, right? It's just something that you have a little bit of here and there. And just because it's a higher quality sugar does not mean you should be thinking of it as something that you can have more of. So I hope that kind of brings it full circle in the sense that while they are better quality sugars that are more nutrient dense and bring a little bit more to the table, it is still sugar, and you want to be mindful and keep it to a minimum. Think of it like this, right? Think if you're eating oatmeal. You can have steel cut oats, which are the least processed types of oats you can eat, versus quick oats, which are the most processed types of oats that you can buy. They are both still oatmeal, and steel cut oats would be a leveled up choice. If you're gonna pick oatmeal, like the best choice of oats that you're gonna get is steel cut oats. But just because you're picking the steel cut oats doesn't mean that you should have 2 times the amount every time you sit down to that plate, right? It's the same sort of thing with the sugar, right? Just because you're picking a higher quality sugar option doesn't mean that you should have it more often or that you should be consuming more of it. So I hope that clarifies it a bit for you. Okay, my friends, moving right along. Let's get a couple more of these questions in. Okay, I love this question, and it was asked by about 3 or 4 people. This is something that I've actually talked about on Instagram several times. So if you follow me on Instagram, you will definitely have heard me talk about this. I actually think I have it saved in my stories, but it's about motivation. How can we find our motivation to leading a healthier lifestyle? How do you find motivation to eat well? How do you stay motivated to work out? So a handful of people asking questions about motivation. Okay, so here's the thing with motivation. So many of us think that we have to wait to get motivated. Like motivation is something that just happens to us. But that really is not the case. Really, motivation is a byproduct of taking some type of action, right? So for most people, when they start to see some type of forward progress or some type of success with their healthy eating or with their weight loss or whatever it is they're working on, that makes them feel motivated, right? So they see a result, and then that creates motivation for them, and then that gives them more drive to keep going. But the thing is at the beginning, you really need to get clear on what you want, make a plan for yourself, and then take action regardless of how you feel. Because so many people at the beginning, you might be motivated for a day or 2 or 3, but eventually your self-doubt kicks in, your negative thinking kicks in, your this isn't gonna work kicks in, do I really wanna do this? This is harder than I thought it would be. All of that thinking kicks in, and technically our thoughts create our feelings. And so when that thought work kicks in, you've got 2 choices. You can either pause yourself and redirect your thinking to create thoughts that create the feeling of motivation, or you can just stick to your plan and take action anyway and keep moving forward. And then that forward progress is going to create a sense of motivation for you. So to kind of button that, motivation happens two ways. Yes, motivation can happen by how we think. I mean, technically, all of our feelings are created by our thoughts, right? So you think something to yourself like, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna show up today. I'm gonna do this. I don't care how long it takes. I'm committed to myself. I'm committed to these changes. That thinking makes you feel motivated. Right? If you're sitting around thinking to yourself, this isn't gonna work, it never works, it's harder than I thought it would be, that makes you feel very unmotivated. And from that space, you're not gonna wanna take any type of positive action. And just to get really analytical, really clear about what I was saying earlier about progress creating motivation, it's not that the progress creates the motivation, but the progress makes us think differently. Right? So we see progress and we think to ourselves, yeah, this is working. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, I love this. And then again, that thought makes us feel motivated. So I'm kind of giving the credit here to the result, right? The progress makes us feel motivated, but the progress makes us think in a positive way that creates the motivation. Can you think in a positive way without the progress? Absolutely, and I would say it's a really good thing to practice. But bottom line here is do not sit around waiting for motivation to come to you. Go out and create it for yourself. Okay, so I don't want to make this video too crazy long, so we'll do one more question. But guys, if you like these type of Q&A videos, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know by liking the video, because if I know that, I will be sure to do that more often, because personally, I could chat with you all day. So this question is from Pallavi. Can you please share tips for not falling off the wagon? Yes, I can share tips for not falling off the wagon. This is another one of my favorite conversations to have. There's no wagon. Forget about the wagon. You're not getting on the wagon. You're not getting off the wagon. This is something that is a continuum forever and ever. And here is the thing. That does not mean that it always looks the way you think it's going to look. That doesn't mean that it always goes exactly as planned. That doesn't mean that it's always perfect. What it means is no matter what happens, you always make a decision to just move forward. Pause, evaluate, take notes, try to be curious about what may not have gone as planned or the way you wanted to, or what may feel like a setback. Learn from every experience, but don't use it as a mental conversation to tell yourself that you've fallen off the wagon. Because guess what happens when we fall off the wagon? We stay off the wagon. We're like, oh, I've got this problem that I keep falling off the wagon. And this is a thing. Like, how do I stop myself from falling off the wagon? I need to figure out how to stop falling off the wagon. I need to stay on the wagon. What if falling off of the wagon was just part of the ride? Like, sometimes it's gonna work, sometimes it's not. But if you just take the wagon out of the equation, then you're just left with just taking the next step forward, and just taking the next step. Right? Don't think of everything that doesn't work as a reason to stop, quit, or to give up on yourself. Just use it as an opportunity to be like, that was so interesting, but nothing changes. My goals don't change, my intentions don't change, my plans don't change unless I feel like I need to tweak them and adjust a little bit, right? I'm just going to learn and continue to move forward. Nothing has gone wrong here. That's one of my favorite things to tell myself when I'm working on my own personal goals, because Lord knows I've got enough of them. It's really a practice of keeping your mind in the right place and not allowing yourself to be mentally derailed because something didn't go the way you thought it should have or the way you wanted it to. It's always an opportunity to learn and to move forward. So the way you stop falling off the wagon is to stop telling yourself there's a wagon. Get on your own side, have your own back, and remind yourself that goals don't get to change, intentions don't get to change just because they're not coming as fast as we think they should, they're not as easy as we thought they would be, or because they're not here already, right? You just continue to put one step in front of the other. Always looking forward. No wagons. Okay, my dear friends, I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned a little tidbit or two, something was insightful. If you have anything to add to anything I've said here, please come down to the comments below and share. If you have follow-up questions or any more thoughts, leave them down in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, let me know, because I am always listening. Thank you all so much for watching. I am Dani Spies. I'll see you back here next time with some more food for thought. Cheers. Okay, guys, so we were just about to wrap it up, and my husband had this great analogy, which I thought I would share for those of you who stuck around to the end of the video. He said, instead of thinking of a wagon, think of it as a horse, right? Sometimes a horse needs to rest and break for a glass of water or for a sip of water. Sometimes a horse needs to slow down. Sometimes a horse wants to trot. Sometimes he wants to run and go really fast, right? There's different levels, different energies, different states, right, that are going to happen. And it's the same for us. The problem with the human mind is every time something goes wrong, we make it mean that there's some type of problem. What if it was just supposed to go wrong? What if winning just meant that we were going to do a lot of things wrong a lot of the times? That being successful just meant we were going to fail a whole bunch of times and get up again? What if that was it? What if you believed that? What would you do different?